it is really, really complicated production, even though somebody who doesn't have the perspective will say, well, it's the same all the time, nothing happens. But if you listen to it carefully and you analyze beat by beat, you will hear all sorts of sounds going on.
You have any tip? How can I, if I can't find a track to compare with the one that I'm doing? This happened to me a few times. But when I get stuck and when I don't know what to do next, and I don't have a track to compare, is there any other way to do it?
A friend of mine who does like French house, Daft Punk style, he starts listening to Led Zeppelin, David Bowie. He goes into a completely different genre. And when you do this several times, you will see that there are big similarities between a pop, or I would say rock, or any kind of alternative music to electronica, even though it's completely different genre. And I'm sure the majority of people listens, even though you are producing techno or electronica in general, you also probably listen to music that it's not electronic based.
Of course, most of the time.
And you have something that you really, really like, and maybe you go and you find inspiration there. For example, I did several Bob Marley tracks and all sorts of things. I don't know, I analyzed a lot of Air tracks, Beck, whatever. I mean, all the music that I like privately. And I also analyzed all sorts of songs from Pink, Katy Perry, all sorts of pop, because I do that professionally, and the more analysis you do, the more you are figuring out the formula, because the basis is basically, I mean, the structure is basically the same in a way. It's just several variations, and when you figure out several variations, you know how a song should be built. And when you start producing whatever, you know that you need this structure. If in terms of pop, intro, verse 1, bridge, chorus, second verse, bridge, chorus, breakdown or C part, chorus, chorus, and maybe last chorus you do modulation and you go up. Simple as that. And you know, when you know this formula, is then just how to pack it, how to turn it around so it doesn't sound as everything else. And the more tracks you analyze, the more tricks you know. For example, the track that we will analyze later has a slightly different breakdown than majority of tracks. And for example, nowadays in club electronica, why every track has to have a 1.5 minute breakdown? If you're a DJ, that's a big problem. So you want to play a track, but every track has a long breakdown. But you wanna, your DJ set is, you have an idea that you will have a continuous flow, and you maybe will make 2 breakdowns in an hour. But majority of songs have a long breakdown. So nothing wrong with it, but you can also check the songs that don't have long breakdowns. And depends on the style. Certain styles don't have breakdowns at all. But this is slightly off topic, but anyway. So when you are stuck, go listen to something else. Because
actually do this.
You don't have any other option, and it is always this analysis. This takes a lot of time. If you are not, if you don't have a system, it can take 2-3 hours easily. Seriously, if you want to be really, really precise, I would spend 45 minutes if I want to analyze a 4-minute pop song or let's say 7-minute club song. If you want to be really, really precise. It takes time. I will show you how to listen and what to focus on. But for example, this is a good warm-up, or if you need a break. You are stuck. You are working on a track, you try everything and everything you do is shit, or you are totally ecstatic and you go to the studio next day and you say, what is this? It's nothing. And you delete. In a case like that, it's maybe good, okay, I will take a break, I will pick one song that I really, really like, I will do an analysis, I will write everything down, and you will get an idea of how to implement something in the song. So it is not, I mean, because sometimes it's really difficult to find a track that is similar to yours. And if you find it, then you will probably copy it, if you know what I mean. So it's better to pick something from another genre, a little bit different, but so you may, I don't know, incorporate electro house trick into a minimal, or trance trick into a, I don't know what kind of genre. This is how it works. You always mix styles. So you should do that once a month, at least, in my opinion. Pick one track. That, because usually if you're a DJ, or if you are producing, or if you are following music, once a month you will hear a track that you will say, wow, this is really, really cool. And if you analyze that, you will get the formula of a really, really cool track. For example, I personally, I buy a lot of pop CDs. Just strictly from professional standpoint, because I want to know how, for example, top productions, pop productions are mixed. So if I'm listening to the radio and I hear a new Pink single, which I wouldn't listen at my home or in a car, I go and buy a CD and I listen to it in the studio. Because what I do, I need to know how top production sounds nowadays. Same thing with Beatport. For example, I could easily get the promos of the stuff that I buy on Beatport, but it doesn't make sense. It is like, can you please send me that and that? It's much easier. So from now and then I go to Beatport and I buy number one from house, I buy number one from techno, I buy number one from trance, and I analyze the track. Not in the terms that I'm writing how it's done, because I'm not interested in that at the moment, but I'm checking how much bass does it has, what is its RMS level, how the breakdown is constructed, blah blah. I'm basically more analyzing sound, because recently I do mainly mastering, so I need to know how top tracks are sounding. So I'm constantly listening what are the best producers doing, and what, or better said, how they sound. Same story with pop or anything else. So in that fashion you get an idea how things sound in your studio and how things that you produce should sound in your studio. Because a lot of people have this, okay, I don't have acoustically treated studio, everything sounds like shit in my room, blah 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 blah. Learn your room. Simple as that. I mean, speakers like that were top speakers in the 80s. And the problem nowadays is that everybody blames equipment. They don't blame themselves. Like, yeah, if I would have analog synth for bass, and if I would have big speakers, and if I would have that controller, and I would have, I don't know, acoustically treated room, then I would be making great tracks. That's bullshit. I mean, we all know guys that created like phenomenal tracks on headphones. Beltek, for example, one of the Slovenian producers. I was shocked the first time when I heard one of his tracks. I asked him, what kind of speakers do you have, where do you work? And he was like, I don't have any speakers. And I was like, yeah, sure. And he was working on 40 euro Audio-Technica headphones. And he had a sound which is comparable to anything out there. He's not comparable to the top stuff. That means he learned how something should sound on his headphones, and he was working for so long that something actually sounded that good. So any kind of equipment you have, you can get really, really good results. And nowadays the most important part, in my opinion, are the speakers and at least basic treatment of the room. If you don't have an option to treat a room or to work, because usually people have studios at home, buy as good as possible headphones and a decent sound card. Everything else is the same. We have the same power, total democracy. If you have Logic, you have the same power as top producers in the world that have Logic. If you have Live, you have the same power as top producers that are using Live or Pro Tools or whichever software you prefer. The only difference is how, what you know, is the know-how. Same story. I mean, if we do an analogy for guitar, I mean, you can, I don't know, who is the best guitarist?
Satriani.
Okay, Satriani. I mean, you can give me Satriani's guitar, all of his amps, I can still cannot play nothing on that guitar. Same story with studio equipment. And it's also true that some really good guitarists actually play pretty average guitars. And same story is also that some top producers in electronica, they use very simple setups. You would expect that they will have I don't know what, but they don't. Because they know their system and they don't want to change it. And they are keeping it that way. And this is really important. And by track analysis in terms of arrangement and track analysis in terms of sound, you will learn how your speakers work, how your room sounds, etc., etc., and then you will slowly progress to a better productions. But you have to be self-critical and sincere to yourself. And this is usually the biggest problem, because your baby is always the most beautiful baby. So it's my track is always the best track. But until somebody from outside shows you that this is not so, that your track is actually above average, you should ask yourself, is this really that good? And if you can't answer it, analyze the track, compare it. And if you still don't see the difference, then try something else.